One of the most common misconceptions when it comes to volatility is that a lot of people assume volatility means that we have a pickup in volume, and this is not quite true. Right? Volatility is merely when the variation from the mean expands. So the best example to use, as we can see in the picture there, is those in that first picture is the Bollinger Bands. Now, Bollinger Bands show us when there's a pickup in volatility or a variance around the current mean. Now, when we see that volatility, again, on its own, it means relatively little. Okay, note, a pickup in volatility does not mean there's initiative in the market. It just means that we very quickly, price is moving quite aggressively away from its current mean. However, what I would say is that when you get volatility and volume together, that does imply initiative, and that is something we have to pay attention to, not just when we're trading, but when we're developing various strategies. So note again, volatility is where we get range expansion. So if you're used to seeing the market, doing maybe on average 10 prices per half hour or hour, all of a sudden we're seeing something like 20 prices, 30 prices every hour. So we get that range expansion. As you can see in the second chart, that's just a basic, sort of a bar chart illustrating the, the change in range. And you can see how the range, more or less, it will average a certain amount of, prices. And then all of a sudden you get these volatility spikes. The question you have to ask yourself when you get that volatility spike, is it accompanied by higher volume? If it is, that's initiative, that's new business, and that's not something we want to be going against. More importantly, that's something we want to highlight on the chart, because when new business enters the market, they tend to leave key pivot points. So note, low volume volatility equals high probability for counter trend strategy. So like I said to you, volatility on its own is not good enough. When we have volatility and low volume, we do tend to revisit, sort of those initial starting prices. And as you can see in that first example, we got that very aggressive move and shift in the Bollinger Bands, but we can see eventually, once the market, sort of found a low, it did start to rotate higher and retest those sort of higher prices later on in the session. So again, that's now our volume and volatility explained, and hopefully you understand these concepts a little bit better, but more importantly, hopefully you can now start to, use these two very important principles when developing your strategies.